and welcome to So We Were Told YouTube channel. This is our first official show. This is Tech Talk, that's what I'm calling it, because I'm not being creative with this. I don't know how often I'm going to actually get to do these, just depends how often there's something in the news that I feel like I can weigh in on. But today was a kind of a big day. It was the Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple. And for those of you who don't know, that's when they like to make a lot of their releases for software and explain to their developers what new features will be available for them to use in their apps or within the operating system itself. And the reason this one was so big is because Apple was going to be diving into AI. And there's a little bit of controversy about AI and how it's being used everywhere and not necessarily explained for what purpose. There's also concerns with security and privacy and those type of things, which I'm hoping to talk to a friend on a separate episode about, like all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to dwell on that right now. But so I have a list here. You can see it there on the side. I was going to animate each one, but that was becoming really tiresome, and I wanted to get this video out. So it's just going to be there. You can see it as I go down the list. I didn't put every single item I'm going to discuss, but kind of put general categories. And there's a lot of people who put out different, I'm minimizing windows, little kind of bullet point items. And I'm using the businessstandard.com just because they were the first one I found. Now, I did watch the event. However, someone's got to tell Tim Cook we cannot do a 2-hour video event. I watch wrestling for fun, and 2 hours is a stretch just for wrestling. And when you're going to do a 2-hour talk on operating systems, especially operating systems that aren't coming out for another several months. I don't think iOS usually comes out until the next iPhone comes out or the week before the next iPhone comes out. So you're looking at like September, maybe October for iOS 18. So it's in beta probably right now, and you can get it if you have a developer account, but you cannot just like willy-nilly go, I'm going to update right now. Too long. I fell asleep at one point. I had to go back and see what I missed, and it's just too long. Okay, so one thing I have a gripe besides the time commitment to watch this event. Do we have to update every operating system every year? I feel like we're getting carried away, and this has been a nitpick of mine, not just for operating systems, but do you guys remember when Firefox and Chrome used to put out an update, and it would be like, you know, version 14.4, version 14.5, version 14 point whatever. And then at some point they were just like, you know what, we don't like the decimal point. So it's like, now we're on like Firefox 55, Chrome like 92. I don't know. I've lost track. But they just, like, it's a solid number update every year. And when they used to do that with operating systems, because operating systems used to not come out but like every 4 years or so. And so you had intermediate updates in between. Windows still does this for now. There was a huge gap between Windows 8 and then what became Windows 10. There's a story there why you don't have Windows 9. I can explain that one day if anyone wants to know. And then we just recently had Windows 11. That was about every 4 years or so. It might not exactly be 4 years, but you get the idea. But Apple recently has been like, okay, every year we have to jump the number. So, for example, they came out with the Apple Vision Pro this time last year, and of course that comes with its own operating system, Vision OS. They just did Vision OS 2, and they only have like 3 updates. And I'm like, why didn't you just call this like 1 point something? Did this have to be an entire like a new version number? It just seems dumb. It's almost like they feel like they're a video game developer that has a sports franchise that has to be out every Christmas. You don't have to do that, and I just feel like it's a waste of time for some people, or it gets people hyped up thinking you're going to have a major update. And for example, I don't remember 16, 17 on iOS being that big of updates. And maybe this one's not either for you, if you're not really into Siri, I guess. But for iOS 18, let's go through this. on my list, there's a whole bunch of things here, but some of them are really silly. But my highlights for you. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Okay. So we have customization on the home screen now. You can put icons where you want. You can leave gaps, and that basically allows you to keep your picture where you want it. Like if you want to see someone's face, you can have the icons go around the face so you're not blocking their face. And you can just on every single page. You can also customize whether you want to have a light kind of aesthetic, or you want to have a dark aesthetic that matches whether you're in light mode or dark mode. Or if you're really into color customization and you're one of those people that tries to get those packs where you can change the individual icons of all the apps, you can just do a whole color uniformity, like all the icons can share the same color overlay, if you will. So I feel like we should have had that a long time ago. I'm not sure if Android has the color thing, but I know they have the ability to put stuff wherever they want. But yeah, that seems like it's been a holdout for a while. You can now lock apps. If you have an app that you don't want someone knows on your phone, this felt like for people who were on dating apps and they didn't want their significant other to know they were on dating apps or something. I don't know. I did not get a good vibe from this, and they didn't have a very good example as to why would you want to lock an app or hide an app like that. So if you have something that you don't want others to see when they like you hand them your phone, like you're like, oh hey, here, like check for photos, or put your phone number in, or whatever it is you're doing. Now you don't gotta worry because you can lock down certain apps. This one's funny. For those of you who don't know, the whole green bubble versus blue bubble thing with Android phones, they've been trying to get Apple to use RCS instead of SMS for non-Apple devices, because then they could have more effects. They could have the kind of like the tap back features and better video quality and just an overall better experience than what they currently have when they message iPhone users on Android. And Apple didn't really have to. Like, why would they care to the Android crowd? It wasn't going to win them any more customers. So they were always like, nah, we're not going to do it. And then in EU law, I think, forced them to do it. And they didn't demonstrate it. At least I didn't see it. I went back and checked. I still didn't see anything. And it was just a throwaway line when they put up all the like the bulleted items on the screen of these are all the things you can now do in iOS, and they're like, also we're adding RCS. Like they just threw it out there. Didn't like, so guess what? You're probably still gonna have your green bubbles on Android, but you're probably gonna be able to interact with them differently. So if you were so hurt by the color green and being ostracized from your friend group because you had green bubbles, I don't think that's going away. Okay, this next thing, they overhauled the Photos app, and I hate it. I don't like it at all. So they are putting a huge emphasis on kind of collections, what they called it, and curating content for you based on people, pets, places, memories. They had to scroll like halfway through the screen before I saw where the albums were. And I organize everything by albums. So I was very frustrated. Like, I don't use any of this. There was a nifty feature where you can now filter out screenshots, which I feel like that would be helpful. But the interface, they were like, it's so gorgeous. And I was like, it's so cluttered. I did not like it at all. It was not clean. It was not organized. It didn't look like a file system. It just looked like a bunch of... In web design, we use things called accordions and drop downs in various places. And it looked like a bunch of those strung together. And I did not like it. Like, I was like, do I have to drill down to find just where the albums are even located? I didn't even think they showed albums. They just like were scrolling and I saw the word album go up the screen. They did not mention it. It's like they were moving completely away from that idea. Instead of having your ability to organize stuff, they wanted the phone and the OS to organize stuff for you and then present it to you. Now they did show a better search function, and I'm gonna get into that in a minute when we talk about Apple Intelligence. Um, for WatchOS, um, I didn't see anything new unless you're some kind of weird like 5K obsessed training all the time athlete. But they did add a Vitals app, which is putting all your Vitals data in one place and tracking it over time and alerting you when you're going outside of your normal range in case you need to know for whatever health you're experiencing at that time. If you're sick and your heart rate goes up, if it's an illness that obviously you need to be concerned about heart rate, or if you're on medicine where you know your heart rate's going to go up, you obviously would know it's going to go up. But if it was not supposed to go up and it was going up, you could track, oh, well, that was a fluke, or it's being consistently high, and then you can consult with your doctor, obviously, what these are over a period of time. Also, they had something with tied into Vitals with your for those who might become pregnant, added into those tracking elements as well, because I think they also have something for cycle tracking and things like that. Okay. So WatchOS had nothing. Oh, I didn't mention they mentioned some stuff about audio and home, and it sounded really dumb. So I'm not even going to talk about it. But there was like a whole section about audio and home. I was like, I'm never going to use that. So it was mostly Apple TV. It's like they forget they have the Apple TV sometimes, and they're like, oh, we should probably update that. And this felt like just like they had to put something on there to say that they acknowledged they had a tvOS, but I didn't feel like it was worth it. It didn't even get to be called like tvOS in the presentation. It got thrown into home and audio, which they didn't even mention the HomePod, and that's like the main part of the home part, right? So they don't care about that whole stuff. They just wanted to say something. For iPad OS, now, people gave iPad OS for the past 2 years some crap because they got delayed the past couple times when they were putting out new OSs. It did not come out in the fall when iOS and everything else came out. It got to come out in the spring, and it was kind of buggy. So people have been hating on it for a while. But they have some it sounds crazy, but they have two things here: SharePlay and Calculator, of all things. And I think these are going to be weirdly game changers, okay? So SharePlay is when you can share your screen directly to someone that you're working with on a device. And just like with Zoom or Microsoft Teams, you can share the screen and you can actually have someone take control remotely. So if they were trying to fix something and you're just being like a complete idiot, like you don't see what they're trying to tell you, they can be like, can I have control? And you can grant them control, and then they can move whatever it is you're doing for you. And they knew what they were doing. They were like, this way, when you're helping someone with their iPad, and they're thinking of all the grandmas and grandpas out there getting their grandchildren to help them with their iPad. That's their audience. That's what they're aiming for. They subtly slid it in there, like, don't forget grandma. So that was kind of funny. Now, calculator. All right, how long have we been saying, why isn't there a calculator on the iPad? Like, it doesn't exist. But why doesn't it exist? Why can't I have a big calculator? So the funny thing about this is that they even acknowledge, like, hey, it's a calculator. They had a little, like, yay, like a little sound effect and a little cheesy thing. But it's what they added with it that's extraordinary. There is something called Math Notes, and you can handwrite with your Apple Pencil or type. I saw it typed on the macOS version of it. They had it on macOS as well. Which I didn't talk about macOS, but I don't really think I have anything to say for it. It's Sequoia, by the way. So the calculator would let you write down a math problem, and when you do an equal sign, it solves the problem for you. Okay? It even like makes it look like your handwriting. And you could do like complex physics things. They had like drawings and a chart and it could handle variables, so you could solve for y and stuff like this, which is so cool if you're trying to do something really fast, right? Now, leave my education hat on for a second. How much cheating is going to happen because of this? Right? Lots of schools have iPads. I don't know if they necessarily have the latest iPads. They probably don't. But what's stopping them from just writing their homework problems and then writing equals and it just telling them what it is? I mean, even if they have to copy it on paper, you know what I mean? Like they didn't know. So they didn't mathematically know in their head how to solve it. They just knew how to set it up, and perhaps the book even set it up for them. I know a lot of times the book gives you the equation, but you still have to solve it, and it was solving it for them. Now, it's not necessarily showing work, so I guess you can still get around it by that, but I don't really know how they do math nowadays because we had the whole debacle with Common Core, which is something else I think I want to talk about in this channel. I've done some research on this, by the way. I've talked to people in the education sector about it. But that's neither here nor there. But they do math differently anyways. There's a lot more things to write down, which I will say they were not doing Common Core math on the presentation. They were doing math the way millennials learned it. Secondly, there's a lot of, at least in the collegiate level, there's a lot of programs where you have to type stuff out and do things a certain way. So maybe I'm overreacting, but it felt like it's great for adults. It's great for people who need to quickly jot stuff down and get an answer fast in industry. Someone who's working out an equation in some kind of high speed field, maybe medical or emergency or something or other. I don't know where you would be writing a math equation, honestly, unless you were sitting comfortably in your house. But let's pretend for the sake of argument that yes, there's a use case for that. Great for them. Not so sure about the education side, because I feel like then you're putting it's just like when they gave us a graphing calculator that could do everything, and we were like, well, then why do I need to write all this down if I already have the answer? And I don't know about the rest of the world, but I was trained to use a graphing calculator from 6th grade through 12th grade, and then I was told in college I couldn't use a calculator. So a lot of good that did me, right? So, yeah, I think it's weird. You really should look at it. If you can find the clip on the iPad OS section and just see the calculator, it's crazy. And like I said, Mac OS is going to get it too, where you could type it out in calculator. Like you could type out equations and still press the equal sign and it would do it. So it was the same thing in Mac OS. Sequoia is what they're calling it. I really don't remember anything memorable on Sequoia. Do they have anything on this thing? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we don't have it on my notes here, but the big thing besides that calculator thing is they have a passwords app now, which is going across the entire Apple ecosystem. And the idea is you can store your passwords for literally everything in there. It's like one of those secure things. 1Password, if you remember that. There was another competitor for that. It's competing in that space. Also, wireless iPhone mirroring, which at first I thought was just like AirPlaying your iPhone to your Mac, because I think people have been wanting that for a while too, and you can't really do that. They wanted to see a Mac like same as you would see like an Apple TV screen. Or maybe you can do that on certain ones. I remember that used to be a big complaint. You couldn't do that. It might still be that way. But this was, you can press a button on your Mac and see a version of your phone and fully interact with it. And you can even drag and drop things from it. And the whole time your phone can be in the other room, completely locked. No one knows that you're doing it. I thought that was pretty cool. because then you could do some you could be working on your phone side by side with whatever you're working on your device, and dragging and dropping, and not have to worry about airdropping files back and forth, or going back and forth between the devices. So I thought that was really cool. And honestly, where I take a lot of video and photos on my device and then use in web development or video editing or whatever, I hate having to sit there and airdrop everything. So if it's already there, I can just pull it off and drop it in whatever app I need, or go back and forth. Which is one thing, because like if I was going to post something to Instagram doesn't really have a web interface, a true web interface. There are ways around it, but it's not fun and not very user-friendly. So then I got to airdrop it back to my phone in order to put it on Instagram if I'm doing all this editing on the computer. So it's literally a back and forth. And that's not cool. But it was neat. I liked it. I don't think anything else was that big. They had a whole thing about Safari, and bless its heart, no one cares about Safari. All right, Apple Intelligence. This is the thing people really wanted to know about. They're using basically artificial intelligence to bolster Siri. And it says, generative models designed with privacy in mind, capable of prioritizing notifications, summarizing content, and generating images using photos from your library. So Apple's whole thing with their privacy is everything stays on your device, right? So they don't see your content. It's not in the cloud. They don't know what it is. They're like, even if they were going to be like subpoenaed, give us this stuff, we don't have it. So that's always been their out, so to speak. But so Apple Intelligence is supposed to be their way of using AI within their environment that currently exists. And they even said, it's AI for the rest of us. And I thought it just made me kind of think of that Seinfeld episode. And Seinfeld's been in the news lately, not in the best of ways. And I thought maybe you shouldn't have used that line. It was just kind of stupid. So Siri is going to have ways of detecting what you're looking at, ways of interacting with you with natural language. So you can follow up on a request and she'll know what you were just talking about. So if you say something like, read the message from so-and-so, and she reads it and he says something about an appointment time or something, and you can say, add that appointment time to my calendar, and she's not going to be like, what appointment? She's going to be like, oh, the one I just said? Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Or if, for example, you can recognize people, you can say, add this photo of Michaela and put it in my notes, and she'll do it. So it's supposed to be more natural, understanding more stuff. On-screen awareness, so she knows what you're looking at, what app you're interacting with. She can help you rewrite something and contextualize it, summarize something. So if you wrote like a big bulky email, they gave an example. You could put like a TLDR at the top with a summary. It looks like I'm looking for what hardware it's on. Looks like it's only Apple Silicon products. So, and the A17 Pro chip, which I don't remember what phone that's in. It might only be the 15. So if you don't have the current model, it might not work. So I have a 14, so that means it would not work on my phone. I have a 14 Pro, excuse me. Yeah, I don't have a list of devices. It just says what chips. Okay. The next thing is, this is the weird one. So, Apple knew that their AI usage was never going to be complete. Because, like I said, their whole model is we're staying on your device. We're doing all the the hard, heavy lifting on your device, on your processor. Nothing in the cloud, nothing going out to a different service, all this kind of stuff. So they knew there were going to be limitations by having that model. So they partnered with OpenAI to have ChatGPT 4.0 integration. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's the one that just came out that had the big backlash because they had asked Scarlett Johansson if they could use her voice, and she said no. And then when it came out, it sounded eerily like Scarlett Johansson anyway, and so she accused them of using perhaps her movies, perhaps other works of hers, to mimic her voice without her consent. And they had to change the voice. But that was supposed to be like their kind of very social, I guess is the best way to say it, AI, in terms of being able to talk to you and carry on a conversation and understand what you're talking about. Not that they're putting that part into Siri, but that's the newest, latest, and greatest one they are using. But you have to opt into it, okay? If Siri thinks that ChatGPT will be able to answer your question better, it will say, would you like me to use ChatGPT? And you can say yes. And then it will, that yes will allow them to send your request through ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT would be able to see that query and obviously run it through their systems because they're in the cloud, they're on a system somewhere else, right? That's not on your device. And normally you'd have to have an account and they would know who you are and what you are. So Apple is at least hiding your identity. They can't hide your query because in order to get the answer, you have to provide the query. So they're at least hiding your information, but whatever you're asking is still going to be seen by ChatGPT. Same thing as if you took a picture and asked it to tell you what it's looking at. Like if you were trying to identify a plant, or if you were, or an insect, or the example they did was they put an area and asked what kind of floral arrangements would look good in this area. And Siri was like, well, that would be a good question for ChatGPT. Do I have permission to send your photo? And if you said yes, it would send the photo and then send back ChatGPT's recommendations. This is being integrated across all platforms that use Siri. So iOS, iPadOS, and macOS at the moment. They did not mention tvOS and they did not mention watchOS. So I don't think they mentioned visionOS either. So right now it's just the big three: iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. So basically, you can use ChatGPT on the Mac in Sonoma. I'm sorry, not Sonoma. Sequoia, the one that's coming out. And they even say if you have an account, you can then link your account and get the paid features through the native OS environments as well, and use those throughout your Mac OS environment, iOS environment, or iPad OS environment. It is not baked into the OS. You have to opt in. I want to make that clear because apparently, right before I came on here about 11:30 something, I think, p.m. And apparently when I was scrolling through Threads and Instagram, I saw two places quoting Elon Musk saying he was going to ban all Apple products from his companies if they were using ChatGPT within their OS because he saw it as a security risk. Now, regardless of what you think about Elon Musk, there are a lot of people that do think that ChatGPT is kind of flying by the seat of their pants and not necessarily respecting privacy or security. And that's why it was kind of weird when people were saying the rumor was that Apple was going to partner with them because security has been such a big part, privacy, I should say. Security too, but privacy has been a big part of their marketing campaign for their devices. And I think that their out is, well, you have to opt in. You have to say, yes, I want you to do this. You don't have to use ChatGPT at all if you don't want to. You probably can even turn it off in the settings, I would wager a guess. So the suggestion that it's baked into the operating systems, or the little surface level kind of hatred and trying to make Apple look bad kind of thing, and grasping for headlines, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they just didn't watch the presentation or read anything about it and just saw the artwork that people had, where it had the one I saw on Instagram before I saw his thing. It just showed the Apple logo and the OpenAI logo together, and they're like, they're working together. So maybe false panic? I don't know. So what do you all think? Do you even care about AI? How much AI is too much AI? That's going to be a topic we're going to be discussing later on another episode. But are any of these features anything useful to you? Do you want these? I'd like to know, so leave comments down below. Of course, you can like and subscribe and help build this channel, build this community. You guys are the first. So thank you for subscribing, thank you for being here, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.